Drive down Route 66 in Albuquerque and you don't just see a century of history, you hear it. Tales of a grocer who dreamed in Hollywood Technicolor and who built a movie palace inspired by Native American beauty. An opera icon who captured imaginations. And a case of mistaken identity. It's all part of a storybook romance written in the stars and illuminated by neon lights for generations to come. It all happened here on Route 66 in Albuquerque. Learn the rest of the story at route66abq.com and then add your story to the next 100 years.
Saying the day, John Wooden, basketball coach at UCLA, one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, said, if you don't have the time to do it right, what makes you think you got the time to do it twice? Always like that. Mm-hmm. You know, do it right. He would start off practices by showing guys how to put on their shoes because he didn't want them to injure their foot or get a sore or something like that. He went through every detail, and you look at his record, it was incredible.
And details matter.
Details matter on everything.
What was that story about? There was a guy, it was his birthday or something, and you were trying to do business with him and he was coming by the office, and you sent someone off to get him a birthday cake, and he was so impressed.
Oh, that was Robert O. Anderson.
Yeah.
And I sent a young intern, a young boy and a young girl, over to the state library. It didn't have the internet. Mm-hmm. And to find out what they could about Robert O. Anderson. They came back, and the young man told me a bunch of stuff, and the girl said, there's something I think is important, and that's what's that. And she said, tomorrow, the day he's coming by, and I said, yeah. She said, that's his birthday. So we had a cake and candles, and immediately he walked in that office, we lit those candles, started singing happy birthday to him. After that, every time I ran for office, I'd write him a note and tell him I was running for something, didn't matter what, or what party or whatever, he sent me a check.
Yeah.
And little details make a big difference.
They pay big dividends, don't they?
Little, pay big.
Yeah. We got an email this week. Someone wrote, and they said they were trying to tell one of your stories to one of their grandkids, and it was about keeping your word. And I believe he's talking about the old story that you had, and there was some cherry bombs involved or something.
Oh, that was the guy that said that to us was W.W. Jones, who was chief police in Dimmitt, Texas. And they pulled us over. It was me, my buddy, Red Dog Morris, and Tony Gable. And he said there'd been a report that there'd been a car like ours shooting cherry bombs up on people's porches and everything. Oh, we wouldn't do that and everything. And he's standing there talking to us. He said, what's under that coat in the back seat? Nothing. Let me see it, And somebody had planted some cherry bombs on us. And he said, boys, I'm going to give you some options. Number one, 5 years in the penitentiary. He didn't say there'd be a trial or anything. Like we could get in the car and he'd drive us down there overnight. Number two, he'd take us home and tell our parents, which made number one look better. Mm-hmm. And number three, we'd promise under oath not to ever do it again. And if we did, he'd shoot us and kill us next time. We took number three. We raised our hand, took the oath, and about, 15, 20 years later, I was in Congress, and I was making a speech at, I think it was Kiwanis Club or something like that, Hereford, one morning. And there he was. He was in the crowd, and he came up afterwards, and I said, hey, Chief, I kept my word. And he said, I know. You know why? And I said, why? And he says, because you knew I'd keep mine. He'd shoot me and kill me. So, okay, I'm sorry. But he probably been sued multiple times and wouldn't have been able to, but he used common sense.
But isn't it interesting how that very brief moment in your life made an impact?
Oh, it made an impact on me. And he, I think back to things like the banker in Dimmitt that told me, if you're going to be a day late on the note, call the banker and tell him, because I worried all weekend, and I'd borrowed like $60. Mm-hmm. He didn't worry all weekend. My mother got mad about it, and he said, this town's got one bank, and if it goes under, your folks going to be hurt. Everybody in town will be hurt.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to be late or there's a problem or anything, I try to make sure they understand and that I want to work with them.
Boy, those days of banking are gone, aren't they? When it was someone in town that knew you, knew your mom, knew your grandma.
That was a community bank. There's still some of them around, but you take there was a bank in Lubbock that had sold to another bank, and I was talking to them about something. They said, we got to get that cleared in Houston. Mm-hmm. I always like a banker that knows me. Mm-hmm. And,
they had to ask someone in Houston for approval for something you were doing there?
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's happened.
Sure has. Well, we're getting closer and closer to the inauguration. I know that you're going to be attending the inauguration.
Will be,
year.
And the former members of Congress have seating, and somebody one time complained to me the seating they didn't think it was that good, and I said, well, look behind us. You look behind you, and you if you got a seat that's good, and there'll be a lot of standing, but there'll be a lot of people there, and I don't know what the weather will be, but it'll be cold.
Yeah.
January the 20th in Washington, D.C. is cold. I was there last week for the new swearing in of the House and the new Senate members that were elected. And it was, I think the House did the right thing with reelecting Johnson. I was just kind of surprised that out of 220 Republicans, that there'd be 2 or 3 that thought they knew more than everybody else, and they'd get somebody else other than him. And in politics, if you hold out for the best, you'll never get anything, because there's give and take, and they don't need to be fighting among themselves. They need to try to be united and moving forward. And Trump wants them that way, and that's the reason Trump made so many phone calls and told people they need to do what they could to be for Johnson and move forward. One of the things that I looked at, there was a Gallup poll, and I want to go over this. And they were asking questions about President Trump and about what percent supported him on what issues and everything. And the number one issue was immigration. And 68% said they thought he'd do a good job. 28% said no. And 28%, 35% or 40 are Democrats. So that, there's some Democrats that agree with him on immigration. I'll come back to immigration in just a minute. On reducing unemployment, it was 60% thought that Trump would do a good job. 37% did not. And the safe from terrorism is 60% yes, 37% no. Improve the economy, 58% said yes, 39% no. Keep us out of a war, 55% yes, 41% no. Cut taxes, 54% said yes, 44% said no. Reduce crime, 51% yes, 45% no. And the president will have some to do with that, but he will, the Democrats tried to use against him, and he was trying to cut police and reducing because he wanted to rearrange the FBI.
Right.
And I think that'll happen, but that doesn't happen. What he's trying to do is get them out of politics. FBI shouldn't be involved in politics. And they got involved, and it's not good for either side. I think that's one of those deals that if it's good for you today, remember it may be bad for you down the road. And that's when Harry Reid changed the rules on having to have 60 votes to approve a Supreme Court justice. He gave Trump three appointees, and became big. Reducing crime was, like I said, it was 51% yes, 45% no. And increasing in respect for the USA worldwide, so we're pretty close, 50% yes, 46% no. Improve the way the government works. 47% said yes, 49% said no. And that kind of surprised me with the appointed Elon Musk and Vivek to head up a Doge deal, and that's been misinterpreted. People think that whatever the Doge committee thinks that'll be done. It's up to Congress. Congress has to approve it, and there'll be a big push to approve some.
Even just to make them look bad, right?
Yeah.
People will vote against it just for political reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's the easiest vote in politics is no, because you can say, well, there was one thing in there I didn't like. I was really for your perverted amendment, but I couldn't vote for it because of something else, and so they wouldn't. Improve the way the government works, like I said, it's 47-49. Reduce the price of groceries. Now, I'm always, why they put that in there, but it's 47% said they thought he could, and 51% no. And improve conditions for minorities and the poor. And 46% said yes, and 53% said no. Reduce the deficit. 45% said yes, they thought he could, and 53% said no. I think the American public's gotten to the point they don't think anybody can.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an issue in the campaign. It's a huge issue, and we're going to have Chairman of the Budget Committee, Congressman Jody Arrington, on here in a few weeks, and let him talk about that. Improve education. 43% said Trump would improve education. 54 said no. I think what he's going to try to abolish the Department of Education, and any monies that had been going to them, let them go directly to the state and local government and let them make the decision.
As a chancellor of a Institute of Higher Education, this is kind of in your world. What do you think of the Department of Education?
I think he gives it directly to the state. You'll have a greater focus for the states, but there are some issues that are national issues, like improving things for NASA and the type of equipment on space shuttle and things like that you'll still have some with the federal government.
That's under the Department of Education?
No, that one's under the Department of Energy, but that's one of the things being considered, whether it will be consolidated and sent back to the states. Improve race relations is 41% said yes, 54% said no. And improve health conditions, 40% yes, 56% no. Environment, 35% to 61%.
That's his worst one, isn't it?
The toughest one, heal political, issues and get everybody to get along. And they didn't think Trump would, do that. It was 33% yes, 65% no. I think he went in 2017 thinking that he could heal the nation, and then you had Madonna and those people the next day, saying they wished he had died. And
Kathy Griffin holding that head up.
And I think he found out real quick it wouldn't. I also believe that's the president on his appointments has appointed people that are very loyal to him. He's had some people that really didn't want to be appointed. They want to help him, but they don't want to go through all the stuff you have to go through if you get appointed, where everybody's questioning everything you've done throughout your life.
It's kind of a shame, but there's a lot of really qualified people out there. They just don't want to go through it. You had someone recently that you knew that was being considered, but they're like, no, I don't
want to do that.
Yeah.
They said they didn't want to go through everybody going through their background. And
can't say blame
Kavanaugh, that's a good example. And he's sitting there with his wife, his two little girls, and they're talking about somebody he had sex with or didn't have sex with, and when he was 17.
Yeah,
and that was the big issue in the Supreme Court.
That was the big issue in the confirmation of the Supreme Court justice. That's crazy.
So, on the immigration issue, the public agreed with Trump that something needed to be done. The Democrat leadership, their whole belief was, if you open the floodgates and more come in, they'll eventually, maybe 2 years, maybe 20 years, they'll get to vote. And they're going to be our voters, is the way Democrats look at it. And Republicans look at it, they're not going to be our voters. And it's an invasion. And some people say you've had 11 million people. Some say it's more. Some say it's less. But Tom Homan is going to be the director. He's going to be the border czar. And he's already sparring with some sanctuary city mayors. The mayor Johnson of Chicago and the mayor Johnston of Denver have both challenged, said they're not going to give him anybody. In the first group that they're going to try to get rid of are convicted criminals. And so somebody said, well, what if somebody's in jail on a murder charge in Denver? Nope, we're not going to give them to them. And, that politically, that's not going to work. They're going to get a lot of pushback. The mayor of New York, he always talked about being a sanctuary city. And then when Governor Abbott started sending those bus loads of people up there and unloading them, and they didn't have anything to do with them, didn't have the money to take care of them, didn't have jobs, didn't have schools set up, they kind of changed their mind. And so there's some people that are, the Democrats as a whole are taking a position, they're calmer about it. Mm-hmm. But there's a few, and I think the few are the ones that want to run for president. And they think that helps them with the most liberal wing of the party. And so they stay on that. But Homan, if you've seen him on TV, he's not a guy that's going to be joking around.
No.
He was the one that Obama gave him an award. He worked for Obama and said he deports people, and he's really good at it. And that was his job. Mm-hmm. He's going to read the law. If the law says X, he's going to enforce X. If it says Y, he's going to enforce Y. He is a cop, and he is the one that said, we're going to separate you from your children, if you come and come into our country. And that was designed to, scare people and not to bring kids. But and somebody said, well, they don't, that's unheard of. If you commit a crime in the United States of America, you get separated from your children. You go to jail.
All right. If you get a DUI with a kid in the car,
yeah,
you're getting separated.
That's exactly right, and should. So that'll be a big issue. But I think, Homan, there's going to be a lot of fights, and I predict there'll be a bunch of lawsuits filed in friendly courts where the judge was appointed by a Democrat, and it has a history of being a liberal judge. They'll file lawsuits in those courts, try to slow things down. But I think between Abbott and Governor Abbott and President Trump, they're gonna build the wall. They're gonna build the fence, and so we'll see what happens. But I think you're going to see immigration change drastically, and the Democrats that are saying, no, we're not going to turn them in. Well, we're not going to let you have them if they're in our jail. We're going to keep them safe. I don't know what they're thinking, but politically, that dog won't hunt. And if they don't realize that, the voters will remind them of it.
What can the federal government do with those mayors, or what can they?
Well, they can cut off their funds. They can do all kinds of things, and they can try to hold them in contempt of court if they get a court order on something. Mm-hmm. And so they can cause them a lot of problems. And these few that are doing it are grandstanding. Most of the other Democrats will wish they'd shut up. Mm-hmm. The issue would go away. Well, it's not going to go away. And Homan's not a guy that will let it go away.
It'll be interesting to see how the mainstream media handles those stories in Chicago and in Denver. Because they got the memo, too, that most people want immigration under control.
Yeah, they want it under control. They still want to have immigrants. They want them to do it legally and do it the right way. And I had a guy that helps me out, drives for me in D.C., named Ricky Z. It took him 6 years to be able to come in legally in the way, and he loves this country. And it's just really important that we have immigration laws and we follow them. Mm-hmm. And it was just obvious that Harris and Biden did not want to follow him.
Right up to this day.
No, that's exactly right. On stupid criminals, there was a guy in Massachusetts who was burglarizing a house, and the cops pulled up front, and he took off running, and he ran a few houses down and crawled up on the roof and jumped in the chimney. Got stuck, and nobody's home, and the fire wasn't on. And so they had to tear down the chimney to get him out. And that's, most criminals are stupid. Mm-hmm. If they just watch Forensic Files on HDL, I think most of them wouldn't commit crimes because they figure they're going to get caught.
And there's cameras everywhere, too.
In this day and time, there's going to be a camera on you no matter where you are.
Yeah.
So just get ready for it. The saying of the day was, if you don't think you have time to do it right, why do you think you'll have time to do it twice? John Wooden, one of the great basketball coaches of all time, and won more championships than every other coach put together.
Just one bite of the deliciously comforting flavor of easy cooking Eckrich smoked sausage is enough to take you all the way home. It takes you back to Grandma's famous sausage casserole made in her favorite pan. Its naturally hardwood smoked taste sends you away to those summer days with Dad at the grill. Take a bite and see for yourself that home isn't just a place, it's a taste, and we think you'll like it here. Eckrich.